The Russian government is denying any involvement in a suspected chemical attack in Syria that has left dozens of people dead, including many children. This comes after witnesses said they saw people collapsing to the ground without any visible wounds. They said people were gasping for air and struggling to breathe. A British-based opposition group says the poisonous gas was delivered by airstrikes, and two of which targeted a hospital where patients were receiving treatment. All of this happening in the northwest province of Idlib, an embattled rebel-held area of the country. Dr. Gregory Koblentz works at the Center for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation in Washington and is the director of the biodefense graduate program at George Mason University. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So what's your reaction to seeing these images out of Syria, and are the witness accounts consistent, in your opinion, being exposed to chemical weapons?
The images and the videos coming out of Syria now are just horrific, especially the one showing children who are just lying there motionless and people gasping for breath. And what you can tell from the videos is that many of the symptoms are consistent with the use of a nerve agent like sarin. It's hard to be definitive without getting samples, but the convulsions, the foaming at the mouth, the pinpoint pupils are all indicative of exposure to a nerve agent. And so this would be the latest in Syria's use of chemical weapons, but definitely the worst by far we've seen over the last few years.
It's just hard to believe when you look at those pictures there. How does a country like Syria even come to possess such destructive weapons in the first place?
Syria's had a chemical weapons program since the 1970s. It was dismantled under international supervision in 2013, 2014 under a U.S.-Russia brokered deal. But since then, there's been suspicions that they held back some of their chemicals, and in fact, the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, which is in charge of overseeing their disarmament, has said they can't verify Syria's declaration because Syria hasn't cooperated with them. So the chemicals we're seeing used now could either be ones that they secretly held back the last few years, or maybe even new agents they produced recently.
And Doc, whenever something like this happens, people from all over the world, they look to see how we will respond. How do you think the U.S. should respond to this?
The U.S. has to respond in extremely strong terms. Syria has been using chemical weapons for several years now in violation of UN Security Council resolutions against our and our allies' protests. But the problem is that they have backing from Russia, which in fact Russia and China vetoed a UN Security Council resolution that would have punished senior Syrian officials for their role in these attacks. So it's time for the U.S. to step up the pressure, not just on the Syrian regime, but also on Russia and Iran, who are backing the Assad regime, and using tougher sanctions on financial transactions, and companies doing business with Syria need to suffer the consequences of supporting a regime that's undertaking such barbaric attacks.
An awful and disturbing story. Dr. Gregory Koblentz, thank you, Doc.
Thank you.